There is a theory on YouTube that at first seems too crazy to believe, but it changes very quickly. We've all seen the 1985 movie Back to the Future. There's a scene that takes place at the Twin Pines Mall where Doc and Marty are attacked in a surprise fashion by terrorists, specifically Muslim terrorists. Now, this theory claims that this attack is representative of 9/11, and they prove it in some very strange ways. But stick with me till the end of this video because it will shock you. Okay, so first off, they say if you turn the sign upside down, the clock will read 9/11. Also, since it is happening at the Twin Pines Mall, the theory states that these Twin Pines represent the Twin Towers. This is further backed up in the theory because in a later scene, this same mall is named the Lone Pine Mall and is represented by one pine. Of course, this is significant because it's obvious that the Twin Towers were replaced by a single tower, and the Twin Pines were replaced by a lone pine. Now, this all seems like normal coincidence, I know, but there's a lot more to this theory. And I hope to show you that this phenomenon happens around almost every massively evil, unexplained historical event. But first, more on Back to the Future. Also at this scene in the movie, Doc has two stopwatches. They both say 119. The theory states that there is a theme in reversing and turning upside down certain parts of the film to reveal coincidences or clues. The next part of this theory also seems very far out, but it happens in the next movie, Back to the Future 2, and involves a scene where the family is looking at a TV showing two pines once again, or you could say Twin Pines, and very quickly the screen shows the Twin Towers. Also, adding to the strangeness here, the torch from the Statue of Liberty is also in the scene, with Marty McFly hanging upside down in the foreground. The theory goes saying that this is the only time in the entire series that a character is upside down, and like in the first movie where if you turn the clocks upside down you see the symbology, if you turn this scene upside down there is also very strange symbology of the towers falling.
Only time when an upside down character will ever appear. The hint being given here is to observe the scene from his perspective by turning it upside down. But when doing so, the Twin Towers are clearly shown to be falling down. In the entire history of cinema, this scene of Back to the Future is the most literal depiction ever made.
This does start to get creepy because in this movie, Marty is constantly yelling, "I have to tell you about the future," or "I have to warn you about the future." But even more strange, the pieces start to fit together into something bigger once you see that when the tower strike happens. A giant 9/11 lit on fire as Marty breaks the barrier and travels through time appears on the ground. This transcends coincidence as Marty is told the exact time and date of the strike of the clock tower. And in the significant events of the movie, 9/11 is represented throughout more and more if you pay attention. One disturbing scene involves a woman giving Marty a flyer that shows him the exact time and date of the lightning strike on the tower. Reading, "Save the clock tower." Above the woman's head is the symbol that we all know too well, the all-seeing eye. This part was powerful to me. I told myself at first that this was accidental, but all of the other coincidences rushed through my head. Is it an accident? Did Robert Zemeckis purposely put this sign above this woman's head at this exact time? Does it represent that someone knew 9/11 would take place, and that person that knew was involved in the same group that is involved in this powerful symbol? Now, the next part is still a bit confusing to me, but I'll tell you about it before we move on. The date that the second movie takes place is October 21st, 2015. The McFly family was watching on their movie screen a movie in the future on October in the year 2015, and in another strange coincidence, the same director and writer, Robert Zemeckis, released a movie titled The Walk, taking place on the Twin Towers with many striking similarities to the Back to the Future films. I'm going to start skipping some parts of the theory because I feel we have the important parts, but a few facts stand out. One is that Back to the Future released in 1985 and The Walk is released in 2015, 30 years later. One is that Marty writes a letter to Doc and hands it to him. Doc says, "What's the meaning of this?" Marty replies, "You'll find out in 30 years. The author of this conspiracy says The Walk is the reveal of the 9/11 warning given to Doc when he is rigging a wire to the tower. The Walk movie is about a plot to rig a giant wire to the Twin Towers. Now it gets really strange. After Doc rigs the wire, Marty shouts back through time. But just after he does, Doc sees Marty running up to him from the future once again, from October 2015, from the date of the reveal of the movie The Walk. In the movie, the character walking across the wire atop the Twin Towers is dressed exactly like Marty McFly and looks exactly like Marty McFly, exactly. This last part kind of washes over you in an epiphany that brings so many strange, seemingly coincidental pieces of information together all at once. And you're left thinking and processing it all together, asking yourself, could this be real? For God's sake, one incarnation of Marty is walking the Twin Towers on a wire while another Marty is standing in a flaming 911 running up to the dock. But also at the same time, another Marty across town is witnessing the attack at the Twins. And one piece of information I noticed while reviewing all of this, when I look at the Marty from The Walk and the Marty from the Back to the Future movies, I noticed that it looks like CGI was used on the actor Joseph Gordon-Levitt to make him look more like Marty McFly or Michael J. Fox. The original conspiracy theory then leads into some other trains of thought, which I believe are very well thought out and good explanations. But to see all of it, including the parts I left out, you'll have to see the YouTube video. Quote, Back to the Future predicts 9/11 on the channel Barely Human 11. I'll leave a link in the description and put a clickable box at the end of this video to lead you there. But I want to show you my own theory. Well, I'll show you one example of a theory I've had for a long time and follow it up with other examples in another video. But watching this theory a few times and processing all the information, I couldn't help but be reminded of another coincidence on the same day, 9/11. In one of my old videos, I added a clip of this powerful concept I've come to see in many of history's most evil and still unexplained events. In my video, 9/11, Some Facts We All Did Not Know, on Unirock, this is the opening scene. It involves the school children in the room with George Bush reading words from
You get the letter at the end and remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. Kid. Yes, kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. Sound it out. Get ready. Kid. What word? Kid. Yes, kid. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. Steal. What word? Steal. Yes, steal. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Playing. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kit. Yes, kit. Get ready. Steal. Yes, steal. Get ready. Playing. Yes, playing. Get ready. Must. Yes.
Bush is sitting in the room. He already knows the first plane has hit the towers, and seconds before Bush's aide tells him the second plane has hit, the children read out the words: kite, hit, steal, plane, must. You can almost see it on Bush's face, like he's thinking that this can't be real. Planes hit the tower, and the kids are chanting each word out slowly and repeating them. I've talked to many people about these two things. Out of all the conversations and theories, I like to think of it like this. Some events are powerful. A wedding, a baby being born, a loved one passing. You can feel deep inside you something moving during these events. They are powerful enough to move a single person. I'm not overly religious, and I'm definitely overly skeptical, but even through my skepticism, some things are too real, and they affect many people all at once in such a powerful way. 9/11 was most likely the most witnessed event ever, or at least in the top 3. And I feel the power of the event even now when I think back to that day. Couldn't something be so powerful to so many people that it transcends the normal, that it creates so many impossible coincidences that someone whose eyes are open to the more than real could only get a small glance for a short second when peering through the looking glass of innumerable coincidental happenings? Maybe not. Maybe we're all just so affected that we piece these random things together to make sense of these tragic events. But I'll say this: as more and more coincidences pop up, I start to think that things are definitely more than real.